Hey there, Eric with you. Thank you for joining me. I wanted to speak to you today regarding processed foods. I drew a little diagram. I hope you can follow my diagram. Um, just wanted to illustrate what happens when our children eat processed food continually, consistently, which many kids, that has become the staple of their diets these days, are these processed foods that come in packages and contain so many different chemicals and dyes. Tons and tons of sugar are loaded into these processed foods. But this is what happens. So, say a child eats processed foods, it gets broken down, much of it gets broken down in their body as sugar. We call that glucose. So, they have glucose going through their system. And what happens when the body senses glucose, a lot of sugar in the system, the pancreas will secrete a hormone called insulin. And what insulin's job is to do is to store the sugar, to store the glucose. It's a storing hormone. So insulin takes the glucose and at first wants to deliver that glucose, that sugar, to the liver and the muscles, and there it is called glycogen, and it's just a form of energy where we can use that later in the day or the next day as energy. But what happens is the liver and the muscles have a certain capacity. They can only hold so much glucose in them. And so when they've met that capacity, when they can no longer accept more glucose, more of the sugar, then insulin will start to deliver that sugar into cells, and it stores that sugar as fat into our cells. So as kids eat more and more processed foods, again, glucose, insulin, liver and muscles reach their capacity, and all that sugar starts to get stored as fat day after day after day, more and more and more. And then there's one more step in this vicious cycle, I'll call it, is that if the cells keep getting bombarded with more and more insulin and sugar, pretty soon they close up too. They will no longer accept the insulin pushing the sugar in. And when that happens, the sugar in children's systems increases, it skyrockets. And this is happening day after day as kids eat more and more processed foods. And as that sugar in their system increases more and more, it can do so much damage. These steps is what brings people is how people become diabetics, because their body is no longer accepting the sugar. They can't store it anymore. Their sugar increases continually. They become diabetic. They become overweight. This sugar in the system, especially in children, is toxic too. It damages the kidneys, the liver, heart, the eyes. I mean, it causes damage throughout the body, and it's happening in little children now. And I just wanted to show you this little diagram. Again, you can think of it as a vicious circle, which is what is happening today. And that is the reason why we have such an epidemic of health problems related to children. It's this vicious cycle, all stemming from processed foods. So of course the question is, what happens if we start reducing or eliminating those processed foods? Yeah, we don't get into this vicious cycle. The sugar will stay at a substantially lower level. We preserve our liver and our muscles and our heart again. All those organs and systems that are so susceptible to high sugar, it can all be stopped, it can be prevented, it can be reversed by just getting children off of processed foods. So I hope my diagram makes sense. I hope it shows how important it is to start giving children real whole food. And I really appreciate if you could share this with as many people as you know, with as many parents, so they are aware what happens every time their child eats processed food. And if you could like this video also, that will just send it out to more and more people and make more people aware. Okay, thanks so much for joining me. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.